Okay, I think I'll limit this video to maybe 20 or 30 minutes at the most. So I set it for 30 just in case I go over. But, you know, I mean, a lot of crazy stuff going on these days. We got a lot of crazy stuff in so many different subjects, you know. I mean, from religion to, you know, the UFO thing, Bigfoot, werewolves, blah blah blah. It all seems to be like coming to a head, you know, these days. We got all this stuff going on. So, I mean, it just is what it is. You know, the thing is we just try to keep as informed as we can. Us who are Christians, we you know, keep our armor on, being, you know, steadfast for the Lord Jesus. You know, and it can be difficult sometimes. At times, you know, you get attacked. Even by, you know, people that are supposed to be friends. You know, sometimes you get attacked for saying anything about Jesus or whatever. But, you know, I won't ever stop talking about Jesus or saying anything about Jesus or whatever. You know, never gonna deny Jesus. You know, he said, you deny me before, you know, the common people, then you're gonna, you know, gonna have some issues. You know, you could be denied before the Father, right? And Jesus and the Father are one, so just, you know, you gotta watch out for that. I mean, Peter 3 times before the cock crowed, or however it is. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not very good at rooster calls, but he was just trying to be incognito, personally, I'm thinking, in my opinion, but it's tough. You know, he was in a tough situation. He's trying to, like, move under the radar. His beliefs are true, but he's trying to move under the radar. I mean, I can understand why what happened, you know, with Peter. I can understand why that happened. He's trying to be under the radar, you know, so that he can keep moving forward. It's a difficult situation, and I know that Jesus already forgave him before he needed forgiveness. You know, I just hope that Jesus will be as forgiving of all of us for little transgressions in life. You know, but the thing is, I will stand for Jesus at any turn. You know, and if I need words, the Holy Spirit will give them to me. That's all I gotta know. Well, I just did a little video, and what I wanted to do was, first of all, I'm gonna talk about information a little bit. I mean, in the last video I was using this shortwave radio. This is an old shortwave radio. I've got a newer one. I've got an older one over there. Actually, this one's older than that one. This is an old Grundig Global 5 G5. It does have single sideband. Does not have a distinguished upper and lower single sideband. It just says single sideband. But that one over there is just a basic Kaito 500, I think. What do they call it? They call it a Voyager. That is an analog, and this is a digital like I said, this one is older than that one. That one is an analog multi-band radio, and the reason why I got that at the time is because I wanted to have something that was affordable and also analog, so that I could just like tweak like a micro frequency, on the dial. I mean, it's all analog, it's got the back and forth movement, analog indicator and whatnot. And, and also at the time I had recommended that one for the L.V.I. Company when that was around. I had recommended that one for the average person. It was not super expensive. I don't remember what I paid for this Grundig, but it was probably fairly expensive. Grundig is not a cheap brand. They've been around a long time actually, I should say. They were bought out by Eaton. Now they are Eaton Grundig. They obviously they have newer models. I have a C.Crane Skywave or whatever they call it. I don't have it out here, but I have a C.Crane Skywave. That one's got absolutely every type of receiving channel that you could think of. I mean, it's aircraft, regular shortwave and AM, FM, blah, 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 no weather, So that one over there has a specific dial for no weather. So it's easy to find no weather on that one. Personally, I think that everybody should have some type of a list of channels. I'm sorry, but I've been a little preoccupied with a lot of things the last few years. I haven't kept up with my frequency lists and whatnot. But the thing is that we should all have, access to information, especially in these days and times. We need access to information. Best way to get it is with a shortwave radio. I know that a lot of people have switched to internet radio, and I think that that's really a mistake. I think that that's a mistake is because the internet, you could lose the internet at any given time. The government can take it over and whatnot. It's harder to shut out anybody with, say, a pirate radio or whatnot to get news and information out there. It's very hard to shut those things down. So in a radio receiver like this one here, you could just scan the bands. The thing about digital is if you do a channel scan, an auto scan, it will scan so fast that it will just scan over very, 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 very weak frequencies. So that's one thing that you have to remember when you are doing an auto scan, is you could potentially be scanning over something that you wanted to hear. Now, I know it's a pain in the butt, but if you just scan it a little bit at a time with your tuning dial, you'll find what you need, possibly, when you're scanning through. So where am I here? Sorry guys, looking for my countdown timer there. So anyway, yeah. So if you want to get a shortwave radio, I would recommend a C.Crane with the the two single sidebands, upper and lower single sidebands, or whatever they call it. That's the recommended radio for me. Some people will recommend Grundig. Some people will recommend Texan, and other brands. I mean, everybody has got their favorite brand. Um, a lot of times I just go on performance and portability, and and uh, and how much does it pack into the radio. Okay, when I got this particular radio, this Grundig World Traveler multi-band shortwave, it was really good at the time, and I thought, I'll go ahead and get that one. I can keep it in a rucksack, so I always had it with me. I packed it, uh, in a waterproof bag and whatnot. But the problem that I always had with the Grundig is that it's difficult. It's a difficult radio. You have to have instructions. It's not intuitive. Um, I don't, I don't have any issues with receiving on it. It was packed away for a few years, and I just took it out again. But I took it out a few years ago, and the outside used to be rubber coated, and a very thin rubber coating on it, which I was surprised, but I dealt with it. What I'm saying is that the rubber coating had deteriorated over time, and so I had to actually just rub it off. I just used my fingers and rubbed it off till it was just down to the plastic. I had to do the whole radio with just rubbing it off. Kind of like if you rub your skin, if you got you've been sweating and you could rub it like that and you get a lot of dirt come off of your skin, if you've been outside working all day or something, it was rubbing off like that. Now it's pretty much down to the bare plastic. I was very careful with the keys and the logo and anything that had, anything that I thought would have potential to rub off with the coating, but it didn't come off with the coating, thankfully. So there are some little places where you could still feel the rubberization. I don't know why they did that. I mean, if you're going to drop the thing, it's either going to break or it's not going to break anyway. But one issue that I had with the radio, this is not an endorsement for this radio, and it's not a review. I'm just talking about this radio as I'm talking about shortwave stuff. So this power button was not working initially when I unpacked it from storage stuff, right? It was not working, and I was upset because I had used this radio over the years, many different places. I hung antenna cables out and clipped them here and got better frequencies. I tuned in across the country and around the world and whatnot. Wherever I was, I could pick up, information, right? But it would not turn on. So what happened, I don't know. I guess maybe it's either got some corrosion from years of just sitting, or it was just dirty or whatever. But anyway, I just kept trying to turn it on. I don't know, maybe it took like 50 or 100 times of trying to turn it on. And now, there it is. Turn it on again. So, you know, this has a wide band and narrow band, you know, and stuff like that. And like I said, you know, unless you've got the manual, and I have no idea where the manual went to, it's packed somewhere in all my junk. But the manual, there it's on narrow band, and it's on wide band. So narrow and wide, I keep it on wide so I can absolutely I can, you know, check as many frequencies as I can. You know, you got a local distance here. You got stuff for headphones or earplugs or whatever. C.Crane, which is not this radio. This is the Grundig. I have a C.Crane. The thing is C.Crane has a single earphone that you can get, and it's the cable itself is it's reinforced with Kevlar. Now, I don't have one. I don't have any experience with it, but I thought, well, you know, it might be good. I mean, I could give it a try, but the thing is that unless the Kevlar is secured inside of the earplug, shorter than the actual wire, you know, then it's everything taking the strain if there's a strain pulled on it. So it just negates the, you know, it will just negate trying to reinforce it. So, but if anybody has any experience with those Kevlar units, let me know. I mean, it's always good to have another earphone, because see, the thing is when you're trying to receive information in a situation, it's not always good to have it through the regular speaker. You know, you might be in a situation where you can't be compromised. You know, you want to listen into any broadcast locally that you can find for information. You know, you could get it in one ear, still it will be listening. You know, have your awareness for the rest of the world outside of you, right? Yeah. So the thing about the Grundig is that it's like it's not user friendly. It's not intuitive, right? It's not intuitive at all. So you do need the user's manual, unless you're just going to sit there and punch in whatever frequency that you're aware of that you could listen in on. So it's good to have frequency lists. You know, I never programmed this with anything. I always just made a frequency list, and I would go to it, and then if I was not listening to anything on the frequency list and I just wanted to see what was out there, then I would just scan through the entire frequency spectrum. Okay, which it's time consuming, but sometimes you can, you know, find some interesting stuff out there. You know, I have received on this radio right here, I have received communications from all over the world. Like even last night, just on this regular antenna, you know, this whip antenna extended, you know, I was receiving, you know, Slovakia to New England here. Okay, I was receiving clearly Slovakia. So, you know, I'm not real familiar with that part of the world anymore. But I don't know if, you know, are we talking Czechoslovakia, or is there just a Slovakia now? Is, you know, I know there used to be Yugoslavia, Transylvania, and all that stuff. But the thing is that stuff all changes over time because they're, you know, warring, and things change. But anyway, I know it was Slovakia. The guy said it was Slovakia. So, anyway, I also had a transmission in Spanish. I heard someone mention Nicaragua. You know, I'm not sure if it was Nicaragua or not. Was it intermittent, you know, up and down? Because, you know, frequency changes, right? So, amplitude modulation, AM. We got frequency modulation. We got shortwave, you know. You got shortwave, long wave, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't remember anymore. My brain is gone for remembering that sort of stuff. It's not so important to me anymore. But yeah, you know, I mean, you can get a lot of stuff even with just a whip antenna on these radios. Now, all of my years, I have always carried something to get information. You know, I mean, you have unit radios and whatnot, right? Where you just talking, you know, talking over the radio. But the thing is that is a finite thing. This right here is something where you're trying to receive on all bands. You're trying to receive information. Doesn't matter 6 meters, 10 meters, 11 meters. It doesn't matter, right? You know, those all the 2 meter ham bands, aircraft. I mean, you know, doesn't matter. You're trying to receive any information you can. You know, and any kind of a radio that has, you know, as many channels as you can get, that's the best one to have. You know, the best one is the one that you can get your hands on that has the most ability to receive information, because we want information, right? So this Grundig here, it's always been able to receive lots of information and whatnot. It does pretty good with the antennas that it has. I'm sure that there is another antenna in here, but there's this, obviously, this whip antenna. But I remember building a radio many years ago where I had to tune the antenna and the inductors and all that stuff. Yeah. So to get better reception, if you have C.Crane makes an extendable antenna that you just roll it up. It just comes out and you clip it on, say, a tree branch, and then you plug it into the radio, right? Now, you can also make your own antenna. I have one in my truck that goes right from my driver's seat. I just have it on the floor underneath, and it goes behind the driver's seat up to the ceiling, back to the back of the vehicle. And I used to have a whip antenna on the back for a CB, and that is still there. I have an old antenna there, a Fire Stick or a Wilson or something, and I had put it on that antenna and then secured it at the top and at the bottom, I think it was. All it is a piece of wire. go to the auto parts section of your local box store and you get a piece of wire. You know, you could buy a roll of it, and on one end of that wire, strip it back, put on an alligator clip, and then you can clip it to this ball on the end of this antenna or whatever. You can just clip it straight in there, and this ball will go into the throat of the alligator clip, and then it just clips down like that, and then you can just shut it as much as you want, and then just lay it on its side or whatever, and just run that wire wherever you need it, and then you will get better reception. Okay, but if you want the easy way, just go to C.Crane Radio, Shortwave Radio company online, and just buy a portable antenna that gives you much more range. So I used to always carry one in the pack as well. I don't know what happened to it. I had used it here. I think it's still here. May not be. I don't remember what I did with it. I used to have another portable antenna that I used to keep it in my rucksack, and then I brought it in here, and I was using it I was stretching it around the upstairs of the house, for better reception for that radio over there. I would just clip it in, and I was getting all kinds of good reception. Colorado one day. I'm in New England. I'm in the middle of two mountain ranges here. I'm at the base of the Berkshires mountain range. So, anyway, one day I was picking up Colorado pretty easy, but like I said, you can get good reception with just the whip antenna, but it's best to have extra tools in your toolbox. Your best reception is always going to be at night as well. It'll always be at night. There's less interference. There's less solar interference. There's less interference just all around. So, now I used to listen to Art Bell a lot on Coast to Coast AM, at night on shortwave. Now, they used to always be advertising C.Crane radios on Art Bell. Now, the thing is that I went to C.Crane's website today, and they have a list of frequencies and everything, and I also went to Coast AM's website. Coast to Coast, I'm pretty sure, used to be on shortwave. It's Coast to Coast is it's kind of a, I'm not going to label it all. But anyway, the thing is, they used to be on shortwave. Art Bell was on shortwave. Art Bell was a licensed ham radio operator. And, he was out in the middle of the desert there in Pahrump, Nevada, I think it was. But, he used to have all kinds of interesting stuff, on his program. Everybody remembers Art Bell. Won't ever be another one, Nope, there won't ever be another Art Bell for radio. There's a lot of people that try, but they're just not Art Bell. George Norrie is good person on the radio, but Art was just one of a kind. Art was just a one of a kind. George Norrie I guess, and several others probably second place. I hate to say that, I don't mean to be mean to anybody, but he just had this personality, that went right along with his program, Anyway, everybody misses Art Bell. He's gone. There's nothing we can do about it. We all still want information, information about all kinds of stuff, whether it's Bigfoot or werewolves or UFOs or whatever, tune into Coast to Coast, in my opinion. But the thing is that Coast to Coast is also going to have a few wackadoos, There's going to be a few wackadoos on there too. It is what it is. It's like, it's a type of program that it's kind of like this YouTube channel. You can either accept it or reject it or tune in or tune out. It's on you. Nobody's forcing you to listen to Coast. But the thing is I recall, they always had interesting programs. Maybe a little bit too much advertising, but what we have to remember about advertising is that's what pays for the programs that we want to listen to. Okay? That's what pays for the programs that you want to listen to, and that's the reason why radio is still free. That's right. Radio is still free. And that's the reason why. It's not really free, but you don't pay for it. It's people advertising pays for it. Okay, so somebody pays for it. You just don't pay for it. People pay for advertising slots on radio. It's always been that way. It's probably about as American as you could get when it comes to something like radio, right? A lot of places in other countries are still on shortwave. They're still using shortwave, especially to their advantage on 6 meters, because 6 meter high frequency is, it just travels. It travels. It does not have to be line of sight. It does not have to be line of sight. That's the reason why, it follows the contours of the land and it gets out there, right? If I remember correctly. If I'm incorrect, you're more than welcome to send me an email and change me up. But I don't remember everything anymore. But I do remember a lot of things. I do remember quite a few things, but there's some things I just don't remember anymore because, too far back in the memory banks, I guess. I don't know. Well, the alarm went off. I said I was going to try to keep this short, under 40 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and cut this one off. But I did make this other video just previously that was a few minutes long with the microwave in the kitchen, and it shows you that by use of this receiver right here, that there is, there is, if I put this right next to my skin, that's not good. Alright? Now, that being the front of the phone. It's worse here than it is in the back. You get a bit more shielding in the back. Not perfectly, but you do. But the front, yeah. So, if you gotta use a phone, use it on speakerphone or use an ear pod or whatever, whatever you want to call them, don't hold it right next to your head. And the microwave, we did physically show that there is something coming off of that microwave, even if there is some shielding there. Don't get right up, looking at your food or any nonsense like that. I mean, the liquid in your eyes might start bubbling or something, right? There is something coming off, from that microwave. If you can, don't use a microwave at all. But the microwave does make it convenient to heat some things. I'm not for sure it's not destroying the food value of some things that we heat up. But I mean, if you're going to heat hot water, I don't think I'd worry about that. Alright guys, I hope you have a good day. I got to get busy outside. I'll see you later.